All right, you mentioned Senator McCain. He came back, he got criticized by some, and the term political stunt, I'll use that, my word, to describe what I think how people were calling it. What was his returning to Washington a contribution to trying to find a solution or not?
Well, the Republicans in the House are the most conservative element in Washington. And they were firmly opposed to the bill, and nobody was paying any attention to them because they thought they could run over them. When Republican leader John Boehner went down to the White House with Senator McCain, and they went around the room, everybody else had cut the deal, everybody else was in on the fix. They got to Boehner and he said, we can't go along with it in the House Republicans. And McCain said, essentially, I'm with Boehner. At that point, Barney Frank and other liberal Democrats blew up because they thought that they had a deal. They thought the administration had basically sold out the House Republicans and was going to deliver them, and they suddenly realized that with Senator McCain siding with Congressman Boehner, that they had to negotiate. That was on Thursday. There was a long, painful, hard negotiation. And the fact is that they dramatically improved the bill. I mean, I said this morning, if I had been in the Congress, I would have hated it. It makes me very angry, but I would have voted yes. And I said that because I watched Congressman Roy Blunt and Congressman John Boehner and Congressman Cantor and Paul Ryan really improve the bill significantly. It was still not a good bill, but it was dramatically better. That would not have happened without John McCain's involvement. And by the way, on the other side, I don't believe Senator Obama delivered a single vote in the House today to try to help pass this. I think he once again was voting present.
All right. So where now does that leave us with, I mean, Senator McCain made a contribution and he got some Republicans to consider it or to vote for it, but we're still back at square one. We have no bill.
Well, and as I said, I think, therefore, the first thing they should do tomorrow, since the Congress is out for the Jewish holidays, the first thing they ought to do tomorrow morning is suspend mark-to-market, which the administration can do internally without any bill. The second thing they should do is rewrite the bill, but I would rewrite it to move it towards being a lending authority, not a purchasing authority, and to enabling people to have a workout, not a bailout. And I believe you could pass a workout bill with a substantial number of Republican votes, where I think it's extraordinarily hard to get votes for a bailout. And I really am afraid, the way the Congress works, that the next stage will be to move with Speaker Pelosi to a very left-wing bill designed to buy votes by giving away money domestically.
What about President Bush and Vice President Cheney? I mean, where do you see their role in this at this point?
Listen, I think that they have not played a significant role in this. I think the president's speeches did not have any significant impact. I think the country deeply dislikes this proposal. I think that what happened was when Secretary Paulson sent up a proposal to allow him to spend $700 billion with no congressional oversight and with no judicial review, a 3-page proposal for $700 billion, he created a negotiating environment that was hopeless. And because it was so clearly seen as a bailout, because he wanted to buy the properties rather than lend money to create liquidity, I think he created a tone in which the average American is sitting out here, and I say this having been in a lot of cities recently. The average American walks up to me here in Oklahoma City today and says, you know, I don't get a bailout. If I get into trouble, I got to figure out how to solve it.
But the problem is, Mr. Speaker, is that on the flip side of that is what a lot of people think is that this is just for the rich people or the rich corporations getting bailouts. The problem is that if there is no credit in the system, the truth is you can't go buy that car. Right. You can't run your small business because you can't get the loan. So it does affect them.
So no, I didn't say it didn't affect them. I said they think it's very unfair. If you say to them, as I do, as I have repeatedly now for a week, what if we loan the money at Treasury plus 2%, but the person who made the bad deal had to actually work at it and pay it off over 5 years? They say, fine. They don't mind solving the liquidity problem so that you have credit in the system. They hate the idea that a bunch of rich guys are going to be bailed out by a former chairman of Goldman Sachs who's going to spend the money the way he wants to with unlimited capacity to take care of his friends.
Does he have a conflict of interest? And we're talking about Secretary Paulson.
Well, look, I was startled yesterday by and this is what really pushed me over the edge decisively. There was a New York Times report that the New York Federal Reserve had a meeting about AIG, the gigantic insurance company, and the only private sector firm in the room was the chairman of Goldman Sachs, which happened to have a $20 billion
thing. I got the article right here because it has scandalized virtually everybody, wondering what in the world was going on.
I don't understand how the president can avoid firing the Secretary of the Treasury when you have a former chairman of Goldman Sachs who wants to have unlimited ability to spend money, and you have the current chairman of Goldman Sachs, the only private sector person in a room, at which, by the way, 2 weeks later, the U.S. government put up $85 billion to help AIG, in which Goldman Sachs has a $20 billion exposure. There's some.
Wow.
The average American looks at, when the average American understands this, they are going to be so angry at this Congress if it passes a deal to give,
we got to take a quick
Secretary
break.
Paulson money.
Take a quick break. We'll be right back with you, Mr. Speaker, because